Hello, hello. This is me coming in right now. I am ready. Oh, I always do this. Don't want that up all the time. Okay. So let's start off here. My name's Dan Aronson. I am a futurist. I want to be talking about the future. Let's talk future. Okay, everybody. When in doubt, future it out. Let's talk. Keep it under the futurist city policies.
Are we doing our channel or a different channel? Are you doing... If you can, like and subscribe to this video. If you see me in the video, you might just want to say when.
You're over there. That's where you are.
But
you're on this little
sometime in the video, I'm going to pop up somewhere.
Mm-hmm. You will too. That's my boy. He's Fortniting while I'm doing this. Yeah. Getting ready for school in just a second. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to school. So let's say futurist policies, futurist transportation, futurist. Let's not go futurist. Future city transportation. Let's go back into that one real quick. Future city transportation, and I'm going to add a little more to that. Transportation and policies. So the reason why I'm doing this, come on, dummy. This is going to see us. Future Cities Transportation CNN, 10 powerful policies to successful smart mobility. Let me see. The public-private pathway to the multi-modal city. What is that? Citylabs.com. Let's take a look together. Let's take a look at this. So, bumpers and bumpers. That's what I look at all the time. I hate that. America's transportation history is full of mistakes. Let's not make another one. Instead of battling out, cities and private mobility companies have the opportunity to work together and lay the foundation for a multimodal future. Let's see here. Public and private partners can create monumental changes in transportation. In the early 1930s, General Motors and the American Automobile Association formed the coalition called the National Highway User Conference. Private car ownership was still in its infancy, and automakers wanted to ensure the motorists had the bigger role to play in the nation's transportation future. So the group helped convince the federal government to politically fund a network of free high-speed roads, 48,000 miles of interstate highway to span the major cities of the United States. Hundreds of Toro Park communities. Where did I go with that? Hundreds of Toro Park communities and 263.6 million registered vehicles later, we continue to reap the system's benefit and grapple with the serious consequence for equality in our cities and our environment. So what I'm getting out of this is they realized vehicles were going to be an issue. They wanted to make sure that they were able to make these vehicles work within the social structure that we're having. So they convinced the government to create this interstate highway system that we have today. Of course, as we all know, like anything else, whenever you design these things, sometimes the straight path is the best path, and that straight path will go through 16 cities or 16 little towns. So what it's saying is hundreds of tore apart communities and 263.6 million registered vehicles later, which is what they're claiming we have right now in our country, obviously. So that's the, since that was created, this is the repercussion. Hundreds of tore apart communities. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the infrastructure that we're sitting on today. Sorry about the phlegminess. I always drink a lot of morning fluids to kind of get myself back up in gear, and then I was drinking coffee this morning, coffee and orange juice. Ugh. Those two combined, they do something to me. Okay, today the auto-centric reality is facing disruption. New mobility services are appearing on the streets every day, including electric bikes, scooters, autonomous shuttles, and more. We're in a Cambrian explosion of new transportation modes, says Emily, the former senior director of policies at both Left and Lime. Despite that, the 900-pound gorilla of private car ownership still dominates. Despite that, the 900-pound gorilla of private car ownership still dominates. Elephant in the room style talk right there. As a commissioner at the San Francisco Department of the Environment and the co-founder of the transportation planning startup Remix, I don't know what that is, which helps hundreds of cities around the world plan for the future of urban mobility, I found that our city's customers have seen more chaos on their streets this year than any other. And like many others who are involved in public and private market efforts to transform America's transportation system, I'm convinced that we have to work through the chaos to embrace a brighter future. That didn't say anything. That literally didn't say anything that says we see a problem. We're weeding through the chaos. Okay, you didn't say anything in this. If they actually if that's their statement towards this, I do not understand what that statement is trying to say other than just political gibberish. I will tell you what you want to hear if that's what you want to hear. Thank you very much. Please clap now. Thank you. Nothing said. That's what I heard. Political gibberish, meaning I don't know what to do, so we're just going to let people talk in a room together and hopefully something comes up. It's the classic, to me, it seems like it's that you put a bunch of monkeys in a room with typewriters and see if they'll write a Shakespearean play. Yeah. How long will it take? How many rotations of how many different kinds of monkeys will it take to do it to? It's that kind of thinking that is what I always hear. Is like, well, we're sitting in rooms together and we're discussing things and things are kind of making sense a little bit with no direction. That is why I'm actually doing this channel right here, so I can say if we as a people can get together, sit around and have a discussion about what we can conceive the future to be. What we can conceive the future to be. I skipped that one. But conceive the future to be. There's a lot of smart people out there who have no access to being in the position to say anything politically toward these things. Oh man, I wish I could do this for the cars. That'd be so much smarter if so and such did this. Great ideas are flowing right now from people sitting around driving their vehicles going, this is stupid to be smart. It goes like this. Talk to me. That's what we're doing right now. Let's talk to me. Come to me. Talk to me. Let's discuss this. Let's talk about what it's going to take to change this system as we see it from the ground floor point of view. I always look at it as the policymakers are probably rich people, whatever. They fly around in helicopters. They don't know what we're dealing with. They don't want to know what we're dealing with. They would rather us solve our problems. That's what I always think. They would rather us really solve our problems so they can go back to sipping tea and, I don't know, what do they do? Ride horses and shoot foxes? Whatever. I can care less. Go do you. That's fine. They have a miserable life. They act like they're having the greatest time in the world when they really want to jump off a cliff 98% of the time. That's fine and dandy too. That's 98% of the people, I think. Rich or poor, no one's different. That's the thing that really sucks. That's the thing that will really cheese off most people. In the long run, it's probably better off to be middle class. You'll end up achieving a lot more happiness. So, back to the matter at hand, let's solve the problems that really, like I said, why would they want to? They're flying in helicopters. They're flying in jumbo jets. They don't want to. They hate when they have to drive through our towns. They hate when they have to drive through our cities. They hate it. That's why they want to ditch as much stuff as they can in the weirdest way, instead of it being done at the behest of people who do not have our greater good at mind. Let's take it and say, can we produce a product that is going to actually achieve something? We can do this. Why aren't city council people calling me up and saying, well, that's harder than it sounds. We need to make a bill for that. Okay, that's fine. Let's do it. People say these things are hard, but all they are is steps. The future city comes from making one step at a time. That's it. If we don't make any steps, it's just like when someone says, oh man, if I would have done that 10 years ago. I had an opportunity to do that 10 years. Well, you didn't. Here you are today. What are you going to do? So if we don't start today to create these policies. So I want to make sure that I have this channel open for anyone who wants to really look at it and say, okay, it's tougher than it sounds. What you're saying doesn't make full sense in the fact that you aren't thinking of this. I want to know that. If I'm not thinking of something, I need to know it's there, to put the wall up where it needs to be appropriately, because in my mind, I don't see these walls. Because there really is no walls. These walls are created by man. Every single wall that has ever done anything has been mankind. Men and women have done a lot to make sure that there are walls everywhere. Not specifically anybody or anything. It is more or less we create the walls. So if there's a thing that says, well, we need to do, that's harder than it said. No, it's not. It isn't. That's the second you start complicating it, is the second you just are kind of saying, I really don't want to deal with it. It's really something I don't want to think about. I'm more worried about, taking care of the people in this town that are already here. It's like, yeah, that's dumb thinking once again. You're not achieving the forward thinking that it requires for the future. So you're thinking of now, what about my kid's future? Not your town that you have to contend with, my kid's future. I'm already here. I've already existed. I want to make sure my son's future is taken care of. My little 8-year-old man, I want to make sure his future is going forward. So that's the reason why I have this channel set up right now. So here we are, halfway through this one. I got on a little bit of a tangent while I'm discussing this, because really that's where I'm at with this, is I keep hearing this kind of stuff where it's nothing said. We're weeding through the chaos. There's no chaos. Chaos is in your mind, not in the things that are around you. Yeah, a lot of stuff comes at you. If it sounds like it's all the same thing, that's what it is. Generalize the larger response. That's all I can say. For a lot of these cities, I think they're trying to nitpick at one thing and another thing instead of listening to what's happening and going, okay, change. They're asking for change. Yeah, that person's asking for this specific. That person's asking for this specific. That person's asking for this group's specific. This group's specific. But all together, I hear change. How can we operate a system to achieve easier change? That's it. And that's it. How do we do that? Is it through technology? Is it through personability? Is it through systems that don't exist right now? We just need to sit down and think of them. Here we are. This is it. This is that. That's what this is. I think that it's the latter. That's why I made this channel, is because I do believe that we need to be sitting down as a people and taking the responsibility amongst ourselves. No craziness. I mean, we have to then take what we learn and then go outwardly with it. If there is a path from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it falls in the guidelines of the rules of the land, then we have achieved what we wanted as a people. So there's going to be some who want other things. There are going to be some that want the, let's say people are afraid of heights. They're gonna be very adamant toward. I don't think we should have things flying through the sky. I already don't like heights, and then I see these planes and cars all flying over my head. That's gonna freak me out, man. Freak me out seeing all that over my head all the time. I don't want to see a car flying over. It's gonna make me freak out all the time. Is that gonna crash? Is that a thing? I just made up a scenario right there. Is that a thing? Do we need to contend with it? Do we need to start thinking, well, it would be nice to then say, if we are in a high flight zone, what do we do? Do we need to make sure we don't fly around major housing districts, that they do fly down the center of where streets would be, so they do fall out, they would land at least on a street to create a car problem instead of a housing issue? I know it sounds still horrible, but once again, I think people would rather see a crashed car on the street, even if it was a horrific crash from the sky, versus versus having it land into a set of houses. That would just be, ugh. That's the one thing people don't want to think about. When I'm at home, I'm safe. That's what people want to know. When I'm at home, I'm safe. If I now have to contend with the fact that there's flying cars over the top of my head all the time, that's going to freak me out, man, knowing that all of a sudden my home's not safe from a flying lawn dart from the sky. That right there is that's another one where I've always contended with, hey, flying cars would sure be neat, but, the thing about it is, so my thing is then if flying vehicles do exist, I have to then say the structure at to which we have our cities is just atrocious, because then you really can't efficiently fly anywhere, because really there's just stupid city structure everywhere. And if I can't fly over a home, because I'm flying through Glendale, and Glendale's scattered with gibberish everywhere, and everyone's like, I love my home, it's 100 years old, it's blah, blah, blah. I go, I don't care. Pipes in the ground. No one contends with every single grounding rod that has to go into a house to make the house legit. Where do you think the power goes from all your stuff? It goes back through the neutral bar, through the ground, down through the bottom and into the earth. We are, as people, dumping kilowatts of power back into the earth all day long. I mean, we're just like statically charging the planet in weird spots. It's another one that I'm not a real big fan of. It's just, I'm an electrician by trade. Did electronics in the Navy. Worked on F-18s. I worked on the little parts. I know what's going on when I see all this stuff. And I worked I did electrical after the Navy. Put together home after home after home. I slammed ground rods in a bajillion different places to realize that every single ground rod I put in is like essentially saying, imagine if you had a bunch of little pins in you all the time, and just charging a little bit into you, so you always didn't really realize it, but you always have a weird staticky feeling about you that's just kind of that's what's going on now with our world, because we just feel we have to do it. In a few places it wouldn't be the worst thing. Like I said, if we had a hyper city and we were to just statically charge around one area, that's one area. But if we have to statically charge California is a major swath of just little pinpricks across this entire land site. If you think about it, as every house has things jammed into the ground. And then on top of that, it's kind of like saying, not only that, but the little thing that's going to be sticking little needles into you that are going to be electrified are also going to dig paths along your skin. Just enough, open it up, stick in pipes and plumbing and stuff like that, which makes it difficult to move and to actuate, because you're going to have plumbing everywhere now. So, once again, I look at it and I say, it's not like it's inside your body as a part of your body, so that way you could say it's kind of like being veins and nerves and organs. This is something else. This is like saying your clothes are going to stick into you a little bit, shock you a little bit every time you wear them. And the longer you wear them, the more they burrow into your skin a little bit, kind of like worms, to do plumbing. And then Okay, so your clothes do produce a byproduct that they then will shove the waste into you in little pockets and places. So every once in a while, you'll have a pocket pop up of just trash. So we're not really. We had to do it to get here. I get this. I'm not out there bashing humanity because really it has nothing to do with that. Thinking of the rich people who created this and going, how dare they? That's once again a pointless discussion to say who did what and to blame. Blame no one. Blame you. Turn around and look in the mirror and blame yourself. Only person you can blame. But what we can do is create policies that will then get passed, and then the rich people will figure out another way to make money in this new system. That's what they do. They're smart people. They're innovative. They'll create a new way to make money off of a new system. The old generation don't like it because they're used to making money this way. F them. They're up a big dirty creek. They can join through their children the new way of creating money in a newer market, in a newer system, and a new environment. As a matter of fact, the rich people's kids want to. And the dad is just an a-hole. I don't like it. That's why. Okay. You're wrong. We know it. You'll die soon, and then we'll have to move from there. It's like the only way this thing seems to work. So it's an unfortunate side effect that when you get old, you just will force people to do what you want. And that's what I see. I like gold, diamonds, and plumbing as far as I can see. It's what I like. I make money on it. Screw all you. Well, there's so many other ways that are so much better, cleaner, and more efficiently designed to be financially efficient too. I think people will receive more money this way. So let's get back into this here. You know, like I said, it's hard because I just keep reading this over and over again, which is this paragraph where it's like, yeah, we're just weeding through the chaos. Okay. Once again, the key to expanding the adoption of the new modes involves physically making room for them. These new services will grow to the extent that infrastructure allows them to. Say Tilly, okay, so it says this lady here, Executive Director of San Francisco County Transportation Authority. If infrastructure does not respond, they will only reach earlier adoption and get stuck. Yeah, I can see that. Adopt early adopters and get stuck. Yeah. As more private market players align with cities, versions of designing streets to prioritize people over cars. It might be time to borrow a page from the GM AAA playbook. I don't know what that is. It's probably something simple that I'm just missing. GM AAA book, but this time learn from history's mistakes and build the collection for the multimodal city of tomorrow. Pent up. Okay, so I mean this is pretty much partnership over. So this is just what we're gonna have to be doing in the near future, which is good. That's kind of where we need to be thinking. So ugly city, ugly streets. Look at that. Just everything about that is just insane to me. I mean, let me look. Where is this here? This is somewhere in Cali. Oh, no, this is Colorado. Denver, Colorado. I'm looking here to see if I can notice any of these streets.
You should be getting closer wrapping up.
Okay. My boy always watches for me. I get too jabbery. Okay. So with that right there, let's look up future public transportation real quick. So the public transportation of the future. Now, this kind of stuff is just insane to me. These over-the-top drivers. That's just, why do that when you can just have a rail system? What they're saying is we don't want to have a rail system. So without a rail system, how could we do this? So there should be these vehicles that drive around on the streets, and you just drive in and around them. I see the first time someone does something dumb underneath it, takes out a wheel of this big stupid thing, and it flops over. The gyroscopic public transportation. It looks neat. I mean, they really do look neat. And really, they are on a rail system. So look at this picture up here. They really are on a rail system. But the fact that the public can just drive around them, I don't like. This looks pretty cool. These pods, single pod transports or double pod transport type things. Like this. This is just silliness to me. It looks neat. They really do look neat. But why neat? Here's another one, the same kind of concept where it's kind of like, I think once you see one coming, I can only imagine as a car you're supposed to like stop or slow down. Here's one. I know they did it in China for a little bit. They had something like this, or were using something like this, or are using something like this. But it looks like this down here and this up here. Yeah, this thing. I don't like it just because as soon as you're underneath it, anything's possible. I just don't think we have enough social understanding of it to have that right now. Like, we're not used to being around these type of entities enough to, because then really certain streets are just going to have to be designed for smaller cars as well, because obviously a truck can't fit up there. Like an American Ford truck, that ain't gonna work right here. So this is the future everyone wants, is this car that you can spin around and enjoy time with your friends and family. Here's another one I like. A hover around vehicle, but it looks like it's being towed. I don't know, maybe not. But when it comes down to it, it's always rail, tube, underground tube, rail, holograms on the cars. That just cracks me up. They talk about distractions, and all of a sudden you're going to have a globe in front of your face. The precursor to it all. The trolley. So yeah, everyone's concepts is always hyperlinks. Oh, you get these really neat little things, but I think these right here, I don't know. It's just, for me, they're trying to create less waste. Once again, these things are a tram system without a real railway, even though they are on a railway, clearly on some sort of track. You can see the metal lines on the ground. It's not like they're not. So right now, when it comes to policy, I'm still not on board with anything that's out there right now. I mean, the hovering stuff, the cars, the fly, the things that go like that, I'm down for them. I really want them because I'm just a futurist at heart, so I want them to be able to do that. But the reality is, we need to, as people, get together and find out how would we want to and how can we do this. These people don't. The people who I have family that worked for cities, and it was always the same thing. They don't know what they're doing. They call it chaos, and it's not. What it is you have to take stuff to a bunch of people that are just going to malign over everything. They're just going to look over every little bit of it and scrupleize and stress and where's the money, which has to be done. It stinks. But for a big city with money, it's going to just be a bunch of, well, we would have to then find out how we're going to make the cops going to be able to be effective in this. How are we going to make the military be effective in this? How are we going to make the National Guard effective in this? How are we going to make this effective? So we have to really sit down and think, you know, what would it take for the National Guard to then jump in on this thing? So it's all of a sudden, the bad guys show up. The bad guys are in a tunnel. They've locked a tunnel down, and then we got to get the National Guard in there to do something specific. How are they going to do it? So once again, is this thing all going to be operational? That's why I like flying vehicles more than anything else, because things can get trapped easily inside of a city structure. Things up in the air tend to probably be able to be tended to up in the air. Always seems to be another world once you leave. Dog fights in planes. That's a whole, we as people on the ground aren't looking up to the dog fight really, because they're usually somewhere else doing it. So really bad guys would just be flown away for the most part, which would almost be good. It's easier to to swoosh away a bee than it is to get rid of a line of ants. Yep. This one here, I like this future car, the flying one. But still, it's all propellers. Not a big fan of propellers. Propellers will be the undoing of any of these vehicles. Buses, underwater, futuristic. Urban technology. Let's go high tech. And then after that, we'll call this a day. Oh, look at that wacky little pod thing. I mean, that's just like... You gotta have these futurist people with like these great ideas. But when it comes down to it, they're trying to fight something that's gonna be gone real soon. Like we have traffic. Well, traffic will disappear when this happens. Or that happens. Or something happens. It'll just disappear and everyone's gonna be like, traffic used to be a big issue. But it's an issue. It is. And we're trying to solve it. But solving it through complicating things is just not the way to go. I want to get to LA faster. So rich people sit around. You know, Elon's a smart dude. Creating some tube systems. That's cool. I still say this is the way to go, but in a different fashion. Like I said, flying like this over cities is going to be dumb. Like I said, the first time, for whatever reason, that thing goes and then starts to crash. Even though you think, oh, okay, look at this. He's over the freeway though, right? Yeah, but all of a sudden that thing spirals out of control and he hits the side of that building behind him on the way to work. That building now has got serious structural damage. How about this? When the big nasty happened on the day we all remember, the infamous day we all remember when the towers fell. Imagine if a bunch of these dork bags suddenly said, okay, we want that gone, and they all just do something dumb. That's what can't exist. That has to be somehow, for the most part, in the minds of people, squashed. I said, here's the vehicle right here. I like this one. They're not showing it proper. They're showing it with this just that open. But when these things spin up, these right here, these little winglets are actually the propellers. It's a unique design. I think it's a definite flying vehicle. This is the first flying vehicle that I would look at and say is one that I would say, even though it has propellers, if you take off from a airport, drive yourself to an airport and then take off, it's totally safe. So I like that one. Great design by the designer. Who is the designer? Let's get the designer. Let's see if they have anything on it. Subject. Okay, so yeah, we won't. We'll just show it, but that's another one that I really do enjoy. But some of these, I mean, they as long as they look cool as a car and look like a car. I don't like those dumb, like this thing here. No, sorry. Looks like a plane that they pulled the wings back and you try driving the damn thing around. It looks pretty cheesebag. This one I like. Because like I said, it looks like a car. We'll see about this one. This one looks interesting. Huh. Okay. That looks kind of tight. I mean, it looks crispy enough to where I'd say it's a... And then these little pud stubs kind of pop out. Okay, that's cool. Okay, here's another one. That looks decent. As long as it looks decent as a car, that's all that matters. I'm not kidding. They always, you have to have the plane fly, but you have to have the car be a car. So get over it. Hello, everybody. We did a little talk on policies. We've done a little discussion on some vehicles. Again, looking at just what's out there right now, and I'm going to be keeping this rolling on because this one really, the topics at hand when it comes to future the future of cities and transportation and really general society in its nature. It's it's going to be a winding road because one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So really, somewhere in there, you're going to have to say future of the National Guard. What does it look like? Future of the police department. What does it look like? Okay, do they match the models that are coming up with what I have generated right now? I want more people showing up so I can have a multi. I don't want it just to be my idea. This has to be society's idea. So I'm trying to figure out how do we right now as a society get together and start thinking about all these things. And once again, what are the main things society is going to be needing? And then each one of those has to start to kind of line up into the models that we're creating for this new future city idea with policies and everything else in mind. Once again, I need people to get in here and start chatting and have a discussion with me about what they see happening, what they can conceive happening, where it can go, and why we need certain things. That's the big one for me, because all the time is more or less for the it seems like the overconvenience of certain things, which then lead to where we are literally right now, where everything, it's not that things weren't good, it's that if things get stressed, like the pandemic we have going on right now, as soon as things get stressed, all these things fall apart, which means they weren't ready to be here. They weren't really here. They were just allowed to be attached to society. Right now, society seems to be scraping off all the barnacles from itself. That's kind of what it reminded me of, barnacles. Barnacles on the hull of a boat. That's what we have most of our society built from. And right now, this pandemic is scraping all the barnacles off the hull of the boat to realize, yeah, all that was just needless extras that had no strength, and it was essentially weakening us. So they were these things that we had attached to us, like barnacles, are parasitic in nature. So once again, these parasitic barnacles are being scrubbed off so we can then move forward with a proper future, which is not the worst thing. It's a tuckening and a tightening. A lot of loose ends were just getting cut off, and now we're kind of doing a little lighter on the end to kind of get things sealed back up and ready to go again. We did lose stuff, and there is more of us. So let's not let the ends get loose again, because every time you have to kind of cut those ends off and then reheat. But every time you're losing something doing it. If we can then do this next phase of societal human evolution in a way that is not trying to produce so many loose ends, so many frays that we just eventually, it's like a rug that the ends are going loose. That was the loose ends were all the things that people were enjoying for no reason. I like this, I like that, I want this, I want that. Those are the loose ends that end up going places that people are like, okay, yeah. But you don't need that. There's no reason for it. There's no real societal infrastructural design for why that's there. This is what makes me the individual I am. And once again, once people can realize you're not an individual, you are literally amongst a bunch of people, a conglomeration. We're interdependent way more than we would be independent, because you're using other things to create your independence, but you're still using something else. That's the interdependency. So it's more of a mindset to humanity that has to start transferring over to realize I'm not an individual, I am an interdependent being amongst all of us with my own individuality, which is the little core, that little part way back inside that has that little conversation with yourself. That's your individuality right there. That's it. It's only in your mind is your individuality, because everything else has to come from somewhere. Even if you make some of your own stuff, some people make their own clothes, make their own this, make their own that. They still aren't living in a house they built. I mean, even people who go off the nut and go off in the forest and do build their own house and do start making their own clothes and do start finally getting there where they are a fully independent being. In order to be independent, they have to remove their interdependency. And they probably are way away from everybody to do it, which means they suddenly become a recluse. Okay, so you can either be in with society or a recluse, it seems to be. There's probably many other ways you can do that, slice it and dice it. But once again, that's kind of where an independent person would be a recluse. Full recluse, out in the middle of nowhere. So anyone who claims themselves to be independent is not. If you look at them, you go, "You're very social, though." Yeah, so what? Then you're interdependent. You're not individual. You're not an individual. Well, you are an individual, but you're not the individual you claim to be. You know, like my independence is what is so important. You're not independent. So that's where I kind of want to get people to. Now I'm definitely hitting my outside limits right now. I'm wrapping this one up. Okay, everybody. Until tomorrow, I am going to be calling this one a day. Let's start thinking about the future. Start thinking about the design. I want to bring. I want to bring the thinking to the people. Think with me. Let's figure this one out. It ain't that hard. Really isn't. It's just talking. I've done this for so long, jabbering with people about this specific thing. That's why I'm here right now. I talk about this with everyone. Everyone seems to have this discussion that I notice. So once again, I want this discussion to be a little more out there for all of us to be talking about. So come join me. Come join my channel. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button. It's the only way you're gonna help me out at all. I don't have anybody right now, so I'll touch it myself. Boop. But when people start coming on, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Love y'all. Have a good one. Bye.